Hello, everyone. Let's create a Microsoft 365 SharePoint-based intranet in under 15 minutes. Oof. Well, let's get started. So this is a beginner's guide. So the advanced features of creating SharePoint intranets won't be covered in this video. This is really designed for a small business, a nonprofit, or a strata, small organization that just wants to get started with Microsoft 365 and start sharing content with your team in a really quick and easy manner. And apparently I'm going to be talking very fast in this video because 15 minutes isn't a lot to cover this. First of all, recognize that studies have shown that people waste time looking for information to get their jobs done. 25%, more than 25%, according to this study. So keep that in mind. And this is what we're talking about, is how to reduce that searching capability and a bunch of other features. But this is a core, key, fundamental piece. So we're going to try and solve that with an intranet. Notice it is not internet, but intra. It's internal. So it's a secure private website used by your organization to share internal information. Secure private. Sometimes it's called a company portal or a hub or internal web, whatever you want to call it. We're going to call it intranet here. So the intranet is used to store information to help your employees find that information to do their jobs. There's that saving time thing again, and collaborate with each other, which both saves time and improves output. Let's work together more effectively. An intranet has defined permissions, saying who can do what to what, saying which members or employees or guests or board members or management can access which things on the internet. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment. So, what is SharePoint? SharePoint is a web-based platform, part of Microsoft 365 for content management, sharing, and collaboration. It's got some key features like document management. We kind of all start with documents, don't we? It's like, wow, how do I store my documents so that everybody can access them no matter where they are? Well, document is a good place to start, but there's a lot of other features, some of which we'll talk about today. Team collaboration, helping your team to work together on projects with shared documents, calendars, all kinds of features that really this is a collaboration tool is what SharePoint is defined as. How does it make collaboration better? It's customizable, so you can tailor sites with web parts, apps, custom solutions to meet your specific needs. It integrates well with the other Microsoft apps, some say seamlessly, and other third-party services. Very robust security in SharePoint for controlled access and data protection. And just underlying again, it is web-based, so it's available 24/7 anywhere that you have an internet connection. Little typo there, that should be an internet connection. Moving on. So out there on the internet, we're all connected to that big old cloudy internet thing with our computers or our mobile devices, our tablets or whatever. And out there somewhere, there's a server, Microsoft 365 server. Microsoft Corporation stood the server up, allowing us access to our particular section of that server through our tenant. In our tenant, our Microsoft 365 tenant, based on our subscription, we have access to something called SharePoint. SharePoint is the tool we're focusing on today. And within that SharePoint environment, you can create your own personal, private, very exciting and beautiful intranet. Drilling in a bit farther, intranet key components. So there's Microsoft 365 again and the SharePoint within it. And now within SharePoint, we're going to look today at creating site pages and the sections and web parts that make up those site pages. We're going to talk about some content containers, including lists and libraries, and then how to put them onto the site pages as well. So these are the key components of your SharePoint intranet, including that wraps everything up and keeps it covered is permissions. And we'll talk about permissions as well. So a SharePoint site is a secure web-based workspace within SharePoint designed for a specific project, team, or purpose. So the purpose we're looking at today is intranet, your intranet. Let's start there. Let's build a site. So I'm going to go into my sandbox site here, and this is a Microsoft 365 environment. And I'm going to go into the SharePoint link in the top left to go to the SharePoint component, the SharePoint landing page for Microsoft 365. And notice, because I am an administrator here, I have the ability to create a site. You may not see this. That means you don't have the privilege to create a site. It will be hidden. Okay, so the first thing to check is a team site versus a communication site. I recommend you read through all of this. I already read through it, so I'll let you know that for an intranet site, we're going to use a communication site. A team site is really focused on projects or specific small teams where everybody's collaborating equally. In an intranet, it's more of a, some people are publishing and everybody are consuming that content. So this communication site is what we're going to use. When you select just about anything in good old SharePoint Microsoft 365, you're going to get a bunch of templates presented. So for this one, I like this purple one, Learning Central. This is a learning. I'll choose that template and I will click it to say use template. Now I'm going to give a site name and I'll give it example. You should always put a site description, and that helps people understand what the site is for. The site address, I like to use a short URL, so I'll edit this to just make it 15-minute intra. You can use the longer one, that's fine, but good practice is to keep it short. I'll click next and choose the language. You can't change this later, so choose your language well. And je pense que je vais utiliser anglais. Ouais, I think I'll use the English one today. So I'll create English. And now it is applying that template and creating our SharePoint site. And here is our intranet homepage we have just created with this lovely purple content. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the look because I'm not in love with that purple now. I changed my mind. So I'm going to go to the theme and let's use a teal theme. And instead, a little bit less jarring. It's saving and now it's teal. Okay, so the other thing you may change here is your logo. That's also under here in change the look. So play with that, change the look a little bit to get it looking how you like. All right, back to PowerPoint. We've created a site. So what we're going to talk about now is modern site pages. So pages are some of the fundamental building blocks that we use to create SharePoint sites and share information. They're friendly, responsive, and visually appealing. So they're user-friendly, they're easy to create and customize using drag and drop web parts. They're structured by sections and web parts, which are modular building blocks. Text, image, lists, more. They're responsive, so when I change the shape or size of my web page, my site page, it will reorganize. It's quite beautiful. Multimedia capability and supports collaboration and sharing updates. So here is my site homepage. So let me go up into the top left here, moving myself around, and I'm going to edit this page. Now I'm editing my home page. This toolbox will pop up. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm not going to show you that right now. If I hover over this first section, notice it says full width section at the top left. If I scroll down a little bit, down to here, let's say, this is a section. Now, as we navigate through here, if I click anywhere, or even in some cases just hover, I'll see a menu bar and some help stuff here, a menu bar pop up. So this is an image web part, and it's got a bunch of options here. So let's say that I don't need this web part, this image, I'm going to delete it. Also, notice now that I'm here, I'm just in the section, This is section properties. So let me edit the properties of this section. And let's say that, notice it's a 1/3 light. I'm going to make it 2 columns. So notice how it reconfigures the section as I choose here. And I'll do 2 columns. Oh, let me do that again because I think I misclicked 2 columns. There it is. You also have the ability here to change the shading and a few other features of these sections. Okay, now the other thing about sections is you can click this little plus sign here and add what's called web parts. Add a new web part in column 1. Okay, so I could add an image. I'm going to go and find stock images, and I'm going to choose this picture of bread. I guess I'm getting hungry. There is a picture of bread. All right. And now there's other web parts here. I'm not going to go through them all. I just want you to be aware that you can add sections. Within sections, you can add web parts. And within the different sections, you can move web parts around. So I'll show you that now. This is a news web part. I'm going to drag it up here and drop it just above. Let's just try that again. Here, I want to drop it here above the bread. And there's my news web part, and the bread is going to get moved down to this lower section, so it could be a nice big picture of bread. Apparently that's important to me. Okay, so use that capability to move things around, publish, edit sections. Maybe this hero web part is a carousel style instead. And now once I make these changes, which I'm doing just quickly here for you, I can save the page and republish. Okay. So now I've got my page here and my picture of bread is there. All is good in the world. Go back to PowerPoint. The next main thing I want to talk about is SharePoint lists. So a SharePoint list is a collection of data organized with rows and columns like a spreadsheet, used to store, manage, and collaborate within SharePoint. So this is a content container in SharePoint. You can create custom columns, you can create views, forms, and it integrates with other SharePoint features such as Power Automate, Power Apps, and it has a permissions capability, of course. And one of the cool things about lists is how it tracks versions. So when you change something in a list or library in SharePoint, it automatically saves the latest version, and you can revert to old versions so people can be collaborating and you don't lose content. This is a really cool feature. I think I'll cover that in another video in more detail. And all lists have this search capability. Okay. So think about lists as like a spreadsheet, like an Excel sheet. Notice there is a item or a row here, and then there is a column or metadata or field or property that the items are made up of. Okay. So this is the way you want to think about lists. So now let me go back to SharePoint and show you a little bit about lists. So notice up here, I can create new list. Oh, there it is right there on the home page. Create a new list. Now, again, we have a template of different types of lists we would create from a blank one or some templates down here. So let's imagine this is a learning site. Let's go with a playlist. So it'll give me a little bit of a overview or preview of what this list is going to look like, and then gives me an option. You know what, I don't like this one. I'm going to instead create a issue tracker. All right, I'll use this template, and you can create these fully customized. You don't have to use the templates. And so I'm just going to call it issue tracker as the default name. Show it in the site navigation. Sure, I'll create this list. So it's going to create that issue tracker list and give me some next steps. I'm going to just close the next steps right now. My next step is going to be add a new item to this list. So it's created a new blank issue tracker. I will add an issue, not enough time. And I can put a description in here in the day. Need more than 24 hours in a day. Boop, boop, boop. Save. This is a normal priority. I'm already working on this one, so let's say it's by design. No, let's say it's in progress. So this is just one of the ways when you create a new list to go ahead and see what that list stores. Select Add New Item. So there's my issue tracker list that I've created, and I can use to track issues now. Create any number of lists that you want in your SharePoint site. Now let's talk about another thing similar, SharePoint libraries. So a library is just a special kind of list that is focused on documents. And in fact, this is where people often start, is with SharePoint document libraries. It's usually storing Microsoft Office documents, but of course it can also store PDFs, images, even site pages. There's a special kind of library for site pages. And it allows you to synchronize with your local computer using OneDrive, which we're not going to cover. So let's go back to SharePoint here and notice that I can create, let me go back to the home page, my intranet home page. So lovely, just really loving that teal. Now I'm going to go create a new document library. Oh, okay. So same idea. There's a few templates here. And I'm going to use the invoices library, and I'll use this template, and I'm going to call it, yeah, let's call it invoices, fine. Go in site navigation. I'm going to go ahead and create this invoices library. So you can create any number of lists and libraries. And let me just close this. And in this case, I'm going to drag some files in here so it's not too boring. So let me go into my sample data library here and drag some files in to my invoices library, drag and drop. So one of the things, this is about creating an intranet. So one of the things you'll be doing is putting a lot of data into your SharePoint site, your intranet site. Drag and drop is one way. Of course, there's a lot more you can do there. Don't worry about that. That is just getting some data in for this example intranet. Let me go back to the home page. Okay, so now what I want to show you is one more thing here, and that's views. So one of the key components of SharePoint lists and libraries are views. And these are ways of customizing how your data is shown. You can choose different columns which are displayed. Remember, columns like our spreadsheets. You can filter and sort. You can have different view types like calendar, cards, galleries. And you can have any number of views for different purposes. Let me go back to my issue tracker, for example. And because I created this issue tracker from a template, there are a lot of views already created. So that's what this is in the top right. There's an all items view, created by me view, show things a little bit differently. My active issues, so anything that is active assigned to me. Status is a card-based view. All these are different views, but you can add a new view here. And I'm not going to go through the details of that here right now, but look into adding views here as well. When I look at my document library, which was called invoices, you'll see a similar setup. it looks a bit different. Up here, the views are shown in a menu, a drop down. So there's different types of views that you can pull down here, and creating new views is also done through that menu. Okay, again, not getting into detail of that because of our time constraints, but that is what we have there. Before we move on, I want to show you one more thing with lists and libraries, and that's adding them to the home page. So let me go back to the home page here, and I will edit the home page. And I'll scroll down a little bit into this section here, and I'm going to add a new web part. And let's say that it's our issue tracker that I'm going to add. So that's a list. Select this list. And oh, there's the issue tracker right there. It gives me as an option. And now I've added that to the home page. Notice in the settings up at the top left here, I can choose which view to use. So let's go with my active. Let's go my active issues. I think that's actually empty for me. I'll apply that. Yeah, it is empty. That's okay. So notice this, as I save, it's asking me if I want to schedule the launch. Right now, there's nobody else in this site, so I'll just publish. I'm just working away on things. Now, here I am. Here's my issue tracker, and notice it's shown on the home page. I can click over here and see all to sort of drill down into the issue tracker. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this item, and I'm going to assign it to myself. Assign to Gerry. There I am. Okay. Now I can close that, save those changes. Assign to me now. When I go to the home page, you'll see that the view of the issue tracker on the home page will be automatically updated, and it'll show that I've got one thing assigned to me. There it is. Okay. So a lot of other settings here, but that's the basics of it. And I can display documents as well. Okay, back to PowerPoint. So let's talk about the all-important permission, saving the best for last, or in a way, the most complicated for the last. So when we define permissions for a list or a site or a list item, it consists of who can do what to what. So putting us in step by step, we define who, the users or the groups of users. What can they do? Can they read, contribute, which is read, write, edit, delete? Can they edit? Or do they have full control, which is all the power? And to what item? Are we talking about the permissions on a list or a library or a folder or an item within a list or a document within a library? So that's the thinking behind permissions. Who can do what to what? Let me demonstrate that back in SharePoint here. Zoom. And I'm going to go into my invoices library here. I'm going to move my head out of the way. Ouch. So up at the top right is my gear here, or the cog, and that's where I can change settings. And one of the settings is library settings. So the settings for this particular document library. So I'm going to go into more library settings here. I'm changing more than the name and the description. This is the main settings screen for any list or library. This is what it looks like. And notice right about in the middle of the screen is permissions for this document library. This is what we're talking about right now. So I'll click on here. And notice that it says this library inherits permissions from its parent. So the parent being the example 15-minute intranet site, and the permissions being set identically for this library as well as the site. Let's say that the invoicing library has more restrictive permissions. So I'm going to stop inheriting permissions here. And I am going to now say, oh, it has unique permissions. So I'm going to say that only the members, only the owners can access the files in this invoices. So I'm going to remove user permissions for the members and the visitors. Okay, so now you have just the owners group are the only people that have any access to this invoices library, so it won't even be visible to most of the users. So that's quite interesting. That's very easily done. And if I want to say, oops, I want to make it back to inherited permissions, I can just delete it there. So that's the fundamental of how you set permissions in SharePoint. What we do is we plan it carefully first. We think it through how we're going to get that set up, and then we set the permissions carefully, step by step. Okay, so just showing you quickly how to here. Now, let me go back into the home page, and I want to show you at the top right, when my gear shows up, I can click it and go into site permissions. So really you start at this place. Let me move myself over here. And I can share site, really meaning add people's permissions to this site. So let's say that I want the Dear Reader user to have read access to this site, and I can choose to send an email or not. So I could add this reader to the site. So now you'll notice that the owners, it's just me. The members, pretty boring. The site visitors, it's just a Dear Reader. Now, because this is an intranet site, normally we wouldn't do it this way. Normally, let me just remove this one. I would normally share site with a special group called Everyone Except External Users. This is my intranet site, and I'm going to say that they have read access. I'm not going to email everyone in the company, but this is automatically updated whenever I add a new user. They'll be in this group and they will get access to the site. So I'll add that. So those site visitors now have everyone except external users. Okay. So there's a few other settings here, but that's kind of the fundamentals of permissions. And I've just shared that site with all of my users. So now the changes I make here will automatically be seen by all the users that have access to this site, everyone in my organization. Well, that is building a SharePoint intranet in 15 minutes. I hope that that was useful for you. Feel free to share, subscribe, and ask any questions. I'm happy to help. Reach out to me directly through my books, or if you'd like to comment on this video, I will definitely review your comments. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. This is Gerry Brimacombe from Light Lever Systems, signing off for now.